안녕하세요. Okay, so I finally have been feeling less worse, because I don't think it's ever going to get any better. I'm just going to feel less worse. And it's to the point where I can record and shoot videos and update. It's been a rough couple of weeks, so yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. But obviously, I've been keeping up with this, with studying Korean. I just haven't been recording anything because there's just been a lot going on. So, finally 90 days in, so almost 3 months, round about 3 months, finished this guy, Mastering Conversational Korean. It's Korean for Beginners. And it's 27 chapters in this book, and like once you kind of like break the ice, once you start getting into it, it's a lot of fun actually. How it was written, how you practice, and how the authors are speaking to you. It's just, it was a really good buy, and looking forward to purchasing. I think there's like a second version or something. Kyubyung Park and Henry Ammon, the authors of this book, very just well written, and I think it's like meant for like younger crowd, because of like some of the things they reference and things like that. But other than that, it's just a really good tool. So I really appreciate that. The rest of my books finally did come from Tuttle Publishing, which is the same people that published Conversational Korean for Beginners. So Tales of a Korean Grandmother. I don't know why. I just thought it was interesting because I like short stories and things like that. Pocket Dictionary. So pretty cool there. Brief History of Korea, because I do enjoy history. And then my Korean vocab, kind of cheat sheet, study card, which reminds me of college and that semester, because that's all I spent. You were there, it's fine, Then there's this guy that I am currently reading, and The Korean Mind. I don't really know what I thought I would glean from this, or what I thought this book would be. I kind of honestly thought that it was just kind of like, it would be a little bit of history and maybe more, I don't know how to describe it, but the long and the short of it is that this gentleman that wrote it is not Korean. He could have Korean people in his family. I'm not quite sure why he, took an interest in this. He's written several books about Asian countries, and mannerisms and things like that. And if I compare the two, which isn't very fair because it is apples to oranges, if I compare this book to this book, vastly different. The gentlemen that were writing the Mastering Conversational Korean, obviously one of them was Korean. It was kind of like a person, a Korean person, learning English, and then an English person learning Korean. That's kind of how the book was written and referenced. And this is just, I don't know, I'm only 44 pages in, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there was a little forward and a little bit of kind of like a history-ish lesson, and it's basically vocab. It's words, descriptions, and what they mean, and things like that. And it's, I don't know, it seems a bit archaic, and just not what I thought. Like, this was written in 2012, I think, when I was looking it up. This gentleman has since, passed away. I think he passed away in 2017. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm sensitive because of the times that we live in, and like me as a person, like I don't know what a Korean person went through, like during the war, or now. I don't know what that feels like, and I just kind of think that if you're not Korean, how can you, and it's like hypocritical maybe too. I just don't know how to describe it. It's just very odd. Like the kind of like the preface, the foreword, or whatever you want to call it, is literally titled "Understanding and Interacting with Koreans." And I don't know how I feel about that. And then in the acknowledgments, there are, a few, Korean, like, professors, doctors, and, teachers. And I don't know, like, I just think it's just weird, and I don't know. I mean, why am I reading this? I could be looked at as somebody who would be Boye Lafayette Dement, in a world. I don't know, but it's just, I don't know. There's 300 and 366 pages of, terms and meanings, and, brief, history, of their meanings. And a lot of it just feels very, I don't know how to describe it. Some of the things, reading, like, I think it not stereotypical, and maybe that's a very strong word, but that's kind of how I feel. Like, the term boksu, and, underneath it says the need for revenge, and it's just kind of like, wait, what? I thought this was like understanding contemporary Korean culture, which I get you have to learn about history, to understand the current. Totally makes sense. But I'm thinking history as in, this person ruled, and this person occupied, and, all of these things. This person is current president, and things like that. And I guess, I don't know. It's a hang up, and I think that's what makes me take so long to read it, is because it's just kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm taken back in time, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. But I'm gonna finish it. I want to finish it. I want to see if there is just anything that I can get from this. And I don't know what I thought. Even on this, it's business and culture studies. And, I don't know that this is true to their culture. Because, granted, the Korean people that I've encountered just in the US, currently, like, working, aren't like this. They're more like this. That's two very different kind of personalities and styles and sides, and you know, this, you would have, it feels like you'd have people believe that they're stoic and you know, slightly cold, and on the flip side you have this where they're, you know, warm and welcoming, and they question and they want to know, you know, who you are and everything about you, and you know, maybe this is because, you know, he was doing research and studying and you know, business tactics and enterprises and things like that, and that's a different realm. You have to be a different type of person to establish, you know, those contacts and networks and things like that. And I just don't know, because then the verbiage and like a lot of the words in here are just, well, you would think that they're just common kind of things that you would use and say almost every day. I don't know. It's just weird. And, you know, probably shame on me for being, like, you know, taking offense to this. It's not my culture, but it just feels so weird. Yeah, it's like, what does it mean to be Korean? Well, I would think you'd have to be Korean to know what it means to be Korean, not a non-Korean person. I don't know. I don't know. You know, the unique character and personality of Koreans sets them apart from all other peoples. And although Korean attitudes and behavior are now heavily influenced by the modern world, the underlying Korean mindset and worldview is still very much shaped by its ancient hierarchical, I can't even say it, hierarchical culture and Confucian traditions. In The Korean Mind, Boyer Lafayette Dement explores the meaning and cultural context of most important code words or concepts that are fundamental to the Korean language and culture. These concepts have significance which goes much deeper than their literal English translations. They are, in fact, the key to truly understanding how Koreans think, and by examining each concept in detail, the reader is given deep insights to the character and personality of Korean people. It almost makes you feel like you're on a different planet, and that could be so, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, because the author, yeah, he's an acknowledged authority on Asia and the author of more than 30 books, including Korean Business Etiquette, Survival Korean, Etiquette Guide to China, and Instant Korean. The person that revised it, Laura Kingdon, is a graduate of Yonsei University, Korean Language Institute, and she's fluent in several languages and has taught English as a second language to students of all ages, and she's the author of the Essential Korean Grammar, which is, again, the same publishing company title. I don't know. But anyways, that's the update. We're still plugging away at this. We're still learning. I'm gonna start with my Let's Study Korean workbook finally, now that I've got a little more confidence and things like that. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those things that you you're just gonna like one of the words is hold on, let me go back. I just was flipping through this. Maybe like they seriously have taekwondo in here. That wasn't the word, but the words. Oh, I passed it. Did I? Yeah. myungae, the need for honor. And not that, I know anything about culture or anything like that, but it just seems like they're just playing into a lot of stereotypical kind of like versions or exaggerated versions um, of, Asian people. And I could be so wrong. I could be so wrong. But it's just, I don't know how I feel about this. And I'm not Korean. I don't know how I should. Oh, oops, makeup down. I don't know how I should feel about that. But I'm still going forward. We're still going to figure this out. We're still going to go through this. It's just kind of mind-blowing a little bit. But other than that, I think everything else is pretty, like spot on. It's easy to understand, interpret, and, keep my interest peaked and things like that. Still using the Fluent U, and part of a Facebook group that does like daily practices, things like that. Obviously YouTube and everything like that, using that. And yeah, so we're still plugging away. We're still gonna do this. Still very much something that I would love to grasp and challenge myself with. And not just because it looks good on a resume. Like this genuinely intrigues me. I find it super fascinating. It is one of the greatest like stress relievers I've ever tried. And like the diversion, it's positive, and you're it's like a twofold thing. You're going to learn something of it, or from it, so why not continue to do it? It's just going to make you a better person, to learn a different language and to learn about different people. So I think it's just I think it's just a good thing. So who knows what the next this year will bring. I'm hoping that it's going to be better than previous in the beginning of this year. So big 3-6, we're going to stay focused and keep going forward. We're not going to look back. We're not going to go backwards. You can do this. We're going to get through this. We're going to be successful. And that's all. That's all. Can only, take one step at a time. And yeah, this is the challenge. This is the focus. This is what we're gonna do. You got this. You got this. You got this. So we're gonna leave it at that.